preparing to.
Is there something you want to talk about afterwards, or are we done then?
Yeah, I don't know just yet until we
Okay,
can.
you just tell me.
Yes, it's loading right now.
Okay.
This is interesting. It's. I wonder if this loading this slow because of my internet thing that's going on. It's moving though. Okay, perfect. I think I'm live already.
Okay.
How do I? Okay, we're live, and this is my first time going live on YouTube, and I needed to. It's interesting because in my computer, the live is playing, and I needed to drop the volume to 0 so I don't get the feedback from the YouTube that we're going live right now. So, welcome everybody. This is a Soul Purpose Conversation, episode 21. That means that we have done 21 weeks. I can't
Amazing.
remember when we started. Uh, the title of this episode or podcast or conversation is called Soul Purpose Conversation because we represent Soul Purpose community. It's a hub for all soul-led entrepreneurs who are on a mission to awaken the world, to grow their business from a spiritual standpoint. And it's very interesting though, Jan, because many people have. It's interesting, and I was surprised, but I shouldn't be surprised because we're expressing what we are expressing, which is the integration of spiritual embodiment in the business growth. People who are actually have been searching that are finding us more. And definitely there's a need and demand in the world. People are sort of feeling torn by the traditional way of, being in the world. And it takes a little bit time, right? Because even myself, the immediate surrounding can actually contradict a little bit. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is the norm, right? And it's interesting how people do things and behave in a way that they do, not realizing that that comes from the status quo and social conformity. And I think it takes courage to step outside of that and ask, is this really the way that we want to be operating? Is this the way that I want to be operating in the world? And I think the more we sing our message and the voice out loud, the more we can attract those who have been feeling called to. And it's interesting, when I had a mentorship with Neil Donald Walsh, that was my first spiritual teacher, and I connected with him directly. And I told him, I think I have come to this place of being able to articulate a lot of the things that people have been feeling but not being able to articulate. And that's sort of catching people's attention and uh, giving them an opportunity to sort of lean into us. And when I said that, he said that was the perfect thing. And I almost felt like, and I kind of felt it. He didn't say this, but I felt it, that that is actually God's work, where because everybody already know deep inside, but forgot about that by being exposed to all the social conformities. And but then deep inside people already know, right, how they came here to live and express. So in the Soul Purpose group, we talk a lot about what we are going to be talking about today, and we're just kind of pulling a piece of what we discuss and have a conversation inside, so more people realize what's the authentic way of living, what's the actual way that we can live from the inside out, and everything is connected to everything else. So the spiritual path and the realization awakening doesn't need to be separate from how we operate as a business. And that's our goal and the focus, to integrate the two. And then more people are realizing how that can be integrated, and then more people are realizing how they have been living in this sort of model of separation, you know, separating what they feel inside and how they operate outside. So, um, do you want to say anything about that piece, Jan?
I mean, for myself, I it was only once I actually heard the words said to me that like nothing in life is not spiritual.
Yeah.
Or yeah, did I say that right? Yeah, and because there we've spoken about this before, but there is this sort of understanding. Well, I'll talk about myself, right? I had an understanding that in building businesses, marketing, especially certain types of building businesses and marketing, were in like contrast to being a spiritual person, right? Making money is not spiritual. Starting a business, entrepreneurship, all of these type of things, and the I loved what you said about building of operating from the inside out, and I'm starting to really understand that the juice of life, right, is in the connection between like I like this language of putting everything in its proper place, right? That I'm starting to feel more and more that like there isn't a contrast between my ego or my personality and my essence, and that my personality or ego has to die, and I need to ascend, or whatever it is. Like I'm starting to realize that the juice of life is in the living of it, right? In an awake, conscious, present sort of way. And when I do that, I do feel called to carry a message, to share something, and when I feel that way, it's my duty to sort of remove all of the mind my language, the bullshit that gets in the way, which is these ideas that that building a business or that making money or is evil or not spiritual. I guess you could do it in ways that are not great. But even then, right, we can't pick and choose. Even then, it's still a spiritual experience. I mean, it's like if you go left or right, it doesn't really matter in the end. Like because it will always be perfect. Like every single moment is an opportunity for me to remember who I truly am, and so if I build a bad business, that is a classroom that I need to be in, and if I build a wonderful business, that's also a classroom that I need to be in. And and I don't even like the language of classrooms. Actually, as my handle on Instagram is like, it's the playground, right? It's the
Hmm.
playground of the soul, and it's not a classroom.
Yeah.
It's not an obstacle course. It's not
Yeah.
an ER. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. 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 I think it's interesting because what you're talking about is you always if you live life from the perspective that you presented, it means that you're always in the right place, right? You're
Mhm.
always in the right place, and then you are meeting life exactly where you're supposed to be, and every single moment becomes divinely orchestrated. An idea that I have been energizing recently is coming from the work of Thomas Shore, who Bob actually suggested to get into it multiple times. He's sort of like a philosopher in the 1980s, and I think he was more in the UK um, area. And he used the term like a livingness. there's the beauty in the livingness of being in touch with the unfoldment of life every single moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what being present means, right? And if you begin mesmerized in this awareness that right now, for instance, as I speak, and if any audience are listening to or watching, in this moment, things are unfolding, right? But the mind wants to objectify things, so the mind wants to point out not what's in the present moment, but what you're projecting towards, and then you completely miss the direct experience of living in what's unfolding right now.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way for people to tap into that is to get out of their head and drop into their body, because the body, first of all, the body does not know how to lie. The body can only experience the now. And the only thing that's taking our experience away from the unfolding of the livingness of now is the mind wandering, going to a different place, different places. So I think what I'm hearing from you is that when you begin looking at life from that perspective, um, there's no any judgment, but only discernment. There's no any um judgment, but only preference. Yeah. And you continuously choose. And then sometimes when I start talking about this sort of present moment conversation, people who are really goal oriented or achievement oriented, it kind of tricks their mind because they don't know how else to be other than chasing and going after the next goal, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think one of the goals that we have is to really integrate that, right? How can we help people be fully in touch with the unfoldment of the livingness of now as they also begin creating the shift in their external. And I think what we have been talking about as far as the frequency of the soul and looking at life from that intuitive place, and to understand that it's all about stepping into and tuning into the timeline, is a tricky concept for the mind, the rational mind, to grasp. But it's a necessary place that we want to practice so we can live from that place. Because I feel that if people don't live from that perspective, they will be in constant overwhelm or stress or frustration, and basically the survival part of their ego structure leads their life, and you can't really be fully present in the moment living from that place, right?
Yeah.
So you try to accomplish, and your life becomes a drama of trying to accomplish the next thing all the time, and you will never arrive anywhere because the primal motivation of life is to arrive somewhere else than where they're at. So you will never feel like, the
But
whole.
that's perfect. Because
Yeah.
I was there for the longest of time, much longer than I would have liked. But I can't argue with the perfectness of it.
Mhm.
And the the language that again, like everything in its proper place, is just a different way of saying like seeking wholeness, right?
Yeah.
And the I love this language of wholeness. I really do. I love this idea of because there's people on both sides, right? There's people that are making a lot of money and have very great businesses that aren't spiritual, but
Mhm.
I can't speak for all of them, but I know a fair amount of them. They get to wherever they thought they needed to get to in order to feel whole, thinking that finances was the only way to get there, and and then they get there and they're like, oh well, I still got like a stale taste in my mouth, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got people that are seeking wholeness in a different way through like very deep spiritual identity, and I use the word identity because it's
Yeah.
it and they renounce making money, and they renounce eating meat, and they renounce, and there's all these things that they do, and that's fine. Everybody must choose what they want to do, but they're also not whole, right? Because it's whatever it is for each of us, the wholeness that we need or that we seek. Some people want to do it on a stage. Some people want to do it as coaches. Some people want to do it as business owners. Some people want to do it. But the piece that I like, and why I'm so fond of what we do is that it doesn't really matter what you do in life, right? As long as it is an inside-out process, that it is everything in its proper place. The layers are there, if I could even use language of layers, and that right at the heart of it is the soul led experience, right? Which is, I guess I chose those particular words because I'm not feeling so attached to this idea of that, like I'm the soul wearing this meat puppet anymore. I like this language of frequency, and that the soul is that it just wants to experience, right? That it just wants to enrich the experience. That it's not doing anything to ever feel more loved, more successful, more anything, right? I'm going from over here to over there because that is awesome and it's enriching. I'm not doing it because when I get there I'm going to feel more me. And I think that is a powerful distinction for me, because I can always check in with myself on that level. Because if I'm doing something and I feel almost like a longing for it, that's not a great place to be. Sorry, I'll go on a bit of a tangent here, but this reminds me of the early days of Soul Purpose, where I was very obsessed with this idea of like longing is the ego, and desire belongs more to the soul, and it's all just saying wanting in different ways. But if we drop the words, I know what the feeling feels like when I'm being driven by my personality. Like when I want to talk to a girl, or I want to make money, or I want to do something because it's it's not right. I'm doing it because I feel lack, right? I'm doing it because there is a hole in me that I want to fill, or something like that. And I don't know much about like very big and profound spiritual stuff. I've read a few things, but what I do really love is just this idea of like you wouldn't think. You wouldn't think if I walk down the street, you wouldn't go like, oh well, there's this deeply profound and this person that's really trying, that is on a spiritual journey, right? You wouldn't think it, because I'm not presenting myself I'm not trying to wear the identity of spiritual, right? I want to wear the no man, no identity.
Yeah.
Which I think is something interesting. But that's just a tangent. But when I stop, like the biggest thing for me at the moment, Yuki. So I'm just trying to formulate what I'm trying to say. But the biggest thing for me at the moment, or the language that I could put it in, like the last month or two, is all the suffering that I'm ever going to face in this life is because I want things to be a certain way. As soon as I start, it's like the nursery rhyme of the three little pigs. As soon as I start to build my house on sand or on this or on that, that's when I start to suffer. Yeah. And again, it's like building an identity, or building anything that I'm building in a way because there is lack inside of me, or because you know, it's all of that for me is the closest way for me to feel as spiritual as I can, and to live a soul-led life, right? Is to just try and be like, to sing my song, right? Because it's what I believe that I want to share with the world from the deepest part of me, not because I want to uh, uh, you know, not because I want to be loved or be successful or anything. Like, those are all byproducts of it. But if I become too focused on those things, then I lose what I was initially trying to do. And this is like this booby trap that I think a lot of people come into. Is they start off very like, then it's very it's very innocent and soul led, and then when they start to do it, they get too focused on the other stuff, on the,
Yeah.
and this again, we circle back to everything in its proper place, right? So it's like, yes, there are tactics on this layer, on this level that you need to use, but if I'm too focused on that, if it's not a soul led process, then it doesn't manifest, it doesn't create anything. It just creates suffering, because then I'm like, this is the direction that I have to go in. And then when you do it, it's like, well, you weren't pulling on the energetic thread. You weren't, it's Madonna saying in that interview that you shared with us a while ago, where she says, I'm not the light, I'm just the manager of it, is again like beautiful, beautiful language of this. We all have got a song to sing. We all have, and building a business. If I'm building a business to elevate my, you know, I can reach more people, and I want to help people, and those people will help people, and all of that type of thing. If that's, you know, this is highly theoretical, but if that's what my soul believes will enrich the experience, then, you know, that's great. But if I start off with like, I want to help people, which is great, and then I start building the business, and then I hit something that goes like, oh, well, you know, you're not making enough money, or you're not, it's just, sorry, lots of tangents, but
No, I wanna kind of define or be on the same page with anybody who is watching, listening to how we define or what it means when we say soul led. Because soul led means that it's not a survival ego led, right? Because that's the opposite of it. So when somebody is living a soul led life or building a soul led business, first of all, you don't need to have a spiritual business to be a soul led entrepreneur, right? Like I'm thinking of Dan, right? He does the semiconductor, and
Mhm.
but the way that he operates is based on energetics. The way that he's looking at the process of building the business as a part of his spiritual practice, not part of, like, it's a spiritual practice, right? And first of all, soul-led life is being created by those who are aware of the spiritual dimension, and those who are aware that the physicality and the formation in the visible world comes from consciousness. Um, Kind of following what Bible says, consciousness is the one and the only reality, which means that when we understand the truth that everything is emanating from consciousness, then that truth will set us free, because then we can focus on the vibrational cause inside, right? So that's what how we define soul led, and also the motive behind what we do, right? So I think
Mhm.
where you call baby trap is people start kind of subconsciously adapting to what the world want us to be, instead of starting from what is it that you feel called to? What did you come here to do? Right? And because soul has its own, I'm just going to use the term contract, and the responsibility, what we came here for. And I think that's what it turns into, the desire, right? What is that you desire? What would you like to see in the world? What did you come here to do? What you feel called to? And then, like, when I zone into the idea and the topic of mission and what we feel called to, Oyan, like, I feel like I want to use the term need. Like, I need to be doing this, not from the sake of lack need, but like a mission driven need. Like, this is what I came here to do. I need to be doing this, right? It's a different kind of need. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think so many people are sacrificing expressing that part of them because, first of all, the world is not conducive to help us unfold the soul's urge, but also we conform in this sort of a survival fear-based energy, right? And also because so many of us have been raised in the environment that enhanced and promoted the idea of luck. So we have received, that pattern, many people. So all those combination sort of take us away from almost like a, trusting that we came here to live a soul-led life. It's interesting though, it's very interesting as I also express this where soul came here to do something, but then we sort of get trapped into all the other things that the soul didn't come here to do, which is a part of the contrast, which is a part of the, the reason that we get to start the process and path of remembering. So I think that's what the soul at life is for me, right? To understand, acknowledge, and embrace the totality of what this life is, the mechanism, and how it's designed. I almost feel like, the idea, Jan, that most people are not living that is a part of the divine blueprint. Because
Mm-hmm.
unless people experience that, we cannot start the path of remembering. So just like you said when you started, everything is in its proper place. And our goal and the role in the Soul Purpose group is to let them know what they already know inside so they can begin being in the environment that facilitates that unfoldment of the soul to begin living a soul-led life because you want to be feeling expansive. You want to be feeling in the flow. You want to feel playful. You want to feel being in that state of curiosity and enjoyment because life's supposed to be that way, right? There's going to be some challenges and contrasts, but then when we acquire a capacity to look at things from a spiritual lens, everything can turn into, expansion, right? Any contraction can be seen as a precursor of the expansion. So that's how I see soul-led life, and I cannot I cannot stress enough the importance of it,
Mm-hmm.
because you can really change the way you live moment to moment, and anything anything other than that, Jan, is temporarily. Means that people want to, grow the business and have a financial abundance. But if you're not connected to the creator, if you are not living from that place, uh, at some point you will encounter life giving you a feedback to come back to that because that's by law, Um, we are being reminded all the time. And then there is a responsibility in each individual mind to recognize that, right? We don't know when that is. And there's the multiple layers of awareness that people can tap into, and they can only hear what they can hear, including everything that I say in the last 5, 10 minutes, people will hear based on their current perception, right?
Yeah.
So some people can feel like, oh, this feel rather resonate with them. Others can just kind of hear from one side of the ear and goes out from the next ear. That wasn't the time for them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, just on the topic of abundance, it's there are, if your definition of abundance is financial, then that's your definition. If your definition of it is love, that's your definition. It's because, it's just interesting that some people make lots and lots of money and some people don't, and some people have got successful businesses and some people don't, and I've met people on the side of the street, without homes, that are some of the most spiritual people I've ever met, and but it's interesting how they find themselves in those circumstances, and it's yeah, it's just I don't think that it really matters. This is controversial, but I don't think it really matters what we do.
Mhm.
Where it comes from is the only thing that matters. And then again, removing all the things that get in the way, because you can be very spiritual and also have some things in the way. Like if you are, if you are worried about building a business because it's going to, or making money, or doing marketing, or getting on sales calls, or doing any of these things that are that again can be done in a million different ways, right? I'm the meaning maker in that situation. I'm the one that is creating the roadblock there, the booby traps,
Mhm.
right? And so it's my duty to remove those things, because if I feel called to do something, and then I'm my own worst enemy in that process, then But again, like, just to come to what I was trying to say was, like it doesn't matter what we do.
Mhm.
It I know that sounds weird, but it's the you must do what you are called to do. Like, what if it comes from the deepest part within you, and you don't even know how you're going to do it, but you start pulling on that energetic thread and you start putting it together, and you start wielding the experience, like Avatar or something, and um, contrast, or abundance, or good times and bad times, and like all of those things are, if you wield it, if you start to not experience it on the personality level, but rather understand, like, from the right place what's going on, energetically, then it doesn't matter what we do. I think, like, again, like, for the longest time I thought that I needed to be a coach, but by relinquishing the identity of coach, I'm actually helping more people than I've ever helped.
Mhm.
It's but it was because I was creating my own cage,
Yeah.
you know, and so, like, I what I think is important is that, for me, what's important is that, like, whenever I start to build an identity, right? That's something that I've got to be careful of, right?
Mhm.
I can wear identities, at different times, and like hats, but I mean, you'd be able to put some better terminology around this, but I just think that, like, from the pool of people that we interact with and help with, the people that get the most success, and that's a relative term, but that are doing what they signed up to do, are the people that spend time in stillness, that allow the next step to unfold for them from the inside out, that are open to changing tactics, that are, they move quite freely through the process, which I
Mhm.
think is interesting. And whenever they hit contrast, they know how to sort of come back to themselves and to wield the experience and to not let it, disrupt them. And I
Hmm.
think that like that's what I think we're trying to convey here is that we all have got a song to sing. We all, even if it's a little song or a big song or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just the things that get in the way, either outside or I either get in the way or I let things on the outside get in the way. So it's actually just me always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting though because we support our artists and so you know musicians and sound healers and people who love animals. And when we talk about singing the song, what we mean is that we all have a voice and the message to share in the world. And as far as my understanding of the journey of the soul, that voice and the message is being created through the life that we have lived, right? So, like for instance, for me, like I lived in different continents and being exposed to different culture, and I was raised by a free-spirited parents. And when you are talking about not to have a caging identity, I was thinking about my actually father. He was a photographer, but he wasn't a traditional photographer. Like a camera was his tool, and I didn't even know what he was doing. So I can tell you he was related to like exhibition, like a museum. He was related to like Andes civilization. He was at some point working with the TV company. He was also connected to Peruvian non-profit organization, and using a tool that he discovered that he can express himself to explore and to play in this world. He was doing a lot of different stuff. Um, so he wasn't he showed me how to live a life without him teaching me, but me watching him how to tap into what you truly feel resonating with and called to do. And there's not any limitation in the way that you can do. Once you tap into your passion and the purpose and mission and calling and begin expanding the way that you can express yourself, opportunity will be shown, right? And I think that path of arriving to the vehicle. So for him, it was, photography. For me, initially, it was a dance. And later, it became this message that we are sharing. It's just an accumulation of how you live your life. And that becomes a message, right? I think one of the core messages that I have is exactly what we're talking about, to not to have any box,
Mhm.
because all the boxes that I've been exposed to felt like needed something else to make sense for me. So my journey has been connecting the dots to create my own version of what life is. And I think that's the message, right? The soul purpose. And what is your voice and the message that you can feel that you want to convey to the world? Mine is, okay, who do you want to be in this world? Who are you? And what the life story tells you that you want to embrace about you. And then you begin creating that. And then the gift and the voice and the message that we each one of us create and build and construct to the world, we are given automatically by life.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to honor that instead of trying to fit into what the world tells you to do or to be. And yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like a nuance here, right? Which because for the longest time, for instance, a very large part of my life I was a drug addict, right? And one of the first places that I started to help people was in that area. and then also just because of the nature of my life, I never finished any sort of studying or anything like that. And then so I started looking after my health, and then felt like I had to, become a coach, and various versions of a coach, and that. But so if I stand where I am right now and I look at my past and I go like, okay, well, what is my life's journey sort of built me into, to what is the message that I want to carry? And then I actually think about the actionables of it. That's not for me. I'm realizing that's not it,
Mm.
right? Like the life that I led, and the gifts that I accumulated through all of that is a specific way of thinking, a specific way of understanding, a specific way of connecting with people. It's I don't even want to call them tools. I would call them gifts, but there is there is something that I have been building my entire life through my life experiences that is positioning me in order to sing my song to a very to specific people that will resonate with what I'm saying in the way that I say it, in the language that when the soul does the talking, and what my own language that I've created, and it's that it's not the title of coach. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the title of recovered drug addict. It's not the identity I love what you were saying, but the nuance for me that I'm realizing more and more is that the life that I've lived is is positioning me to carry a specific message, but it's not necessarily the message of like don't take drugs or
Right.
eat better or do exercise or whatever. Because if I choose to be a coach, or even if I choose to become a recovery drug addict counselor or whatever, or anything like or if I choose to become a donut salesman, or if I choose to, it doesn't really matter, right? Like as the what I've been building within me, the song that I want to sing will come out in whatever vocation I choose,
Mm-hmm.
as long as everything is in its proper place.
Yeah.
Right. So then I get to choose whatever I want to do in order to magnify my message. Right. If I'm content with selling donuts at the Sunday flea market, and not really making a lot of money or whatever, but that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Some people are called to bigger missions, and I think the absolute worst thing that you could do for yourself is handicap yourself out of fear, or out of some type of belief, or out of because I do think that massive expansion is available to everyone, right?
Yeah.
It's you are only as you can only see as far as your, let's use the word paradigm, right? You can only
Mm-hmm.
see as far as the edges of your bubble, but if you start popping that bubble, like there's just a bigger one and a
Yeah.
bigger one, and I think that yeah, I think that it's that just that nuance of rather than trying to focus on like the identity that, or whatever it is that you there's a there's a small distinction in it's not, when I look at my life, it's not picking the how can I say this? In that video, I've told you about this, in that Jim Rohn video that I saw, and I never did the exercise, but he said in there, he was like, write down all the ways that you can make money on a piece of paper. And this is the important part for me, is he said there, do not limit yourself by what you think you are good at.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that I never needed to do the exercise. I just had to close my eyes and I had to start thinking like outside of the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the and and letting go of all the ways that I thought I was good at making money or doing something, and then just being like, okay, cool, how can I pull on the energetic thread? How can I start to sing the song? How can I start to let life unfold through me? How can I start to just start waking up to the moment? How can I be more present? How can I start to be of service? How can I, and then every time I find myself building walls around it, going, no, let the walls drop and just listen to, what what is being given to you to build.
Yeah. It's interesting how all the possibilities and potentiality is there in the blueprint of this ether. And we just want to allow and let ourselves to be that and to tune into the timeline so we can actually begin expressing. I think I don't look at being in the knowing and present and taking inspire action as two different things. And interesting what you just said though, yeah. Like everybody has a potential and possibility to create what they desire. And it's up to them, right? It's up to them to choose to be that. And it's that simple, right? And we, depending on how you see them, how they see themselves, how they see the world, they choose doubt, they choose limitation, they choose, oh, this is difficult, not for me, right? um but I think there needs to be a fundamental trust in the knowing, and this is what I love sharing with people. Like if you desire something and if you feel called to do something or be somebody, the manifestation and the fulfillment of that is inevitable. And how much can you actually believe that that is true? Or if you don't believe that that is true for you, how much are you willing to practice and exercise the mind so it can become your truth? Is, I feel like, what we are playing with. Everybody can live the way they want to, right? But those who are not living that tends to have a perception that at some degree, some sort of like a victim mentality, right? They are doing that, but I'm not. They can do this, but I'm not. And I think it's a beautiful awareness to recognize that, so we can actually choose whatever that is that we want to choose. The desire is different for everybody, right? Some people want some sort of global impact. Some others might want a local impact. And what I found is that desire is different for everybody, but desire is also, people tends to choose the desire based on the belief that they're in. So it kind of goes hand in hand. The more people start sort of expanding their life in a greater way, meaning the size of it, the scope of it, people start believing in themselves and the impact more, so they can, and then they change the desire. That desire expands. So it is something that we are called to do, but it's sort of like an endless expansion. It's a movement, right? All the time. Um, yeah, it's interesting how people, you know, see their life, and what they want it to be is very different. But any guidance, it starts from desire. If, identifying that desire and desiring to have the desire and desiring to expand the desire, it's up to them. Um, yeah. And
It's,
then,
yeah,
mhm,
just to that word desire, right? If we just assume that that is what you're meaning, is that the intention to expand or to create more, to build bigger, or to make more money is to, for instance, have a bigger impact, to help more people, or to carry the message further, or whatever it is. You know, like there is an authenticity to it that I think people also need to find, because along this way you can get lost in the focusing on the magnitude of making it bigger for the sake of making it bigger,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
You know, the single words that I have been falling in love with these days is the term significance. And here's how I see it. You don't need to have anything from the outside for you and for us, each one of us, to feel and be in wholeness, because that is who we are. And in this physical realm, we have interaction, we have other people, right? So the way that I see is that if you create an experience, if you create an experience of significance, which is to touch and impact others, now you can create a shared experience of that wholeness through that connection and interaction. So it's one thing to be in the wholeness and then to move from that place, but also to begin constructing and creating the share experience of wholeness through and with others through that is what nourishes it, each one of us. So that's how I see it, right? The more, why do we want to grow our business? Why do we want to create an impact? Because we can include more people in that process of feeling and being whole through the sharing and touch and impact and significance. So
Giving and receiving are the same thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think at the most fundamental level, everybody's craving that. You know? At the surface level, many people don't probably think that that's what they need. But at the subconscious symbolic level, I think that's what each and every one of us is actually seeking and craving. So
I wish I could find it. I won't be able to find it in time, but perhaps we can talk about it next time. But in the Facets of Unity book,
mhm,
the chapter that we're on in the book club is they talk about that you know the difference between like the absolute wholeness, that we are all, you know, we're all connected and we're all actually you know, ripples or waves on the same ocean type thing,
mhm,
but that there is, that I love the language that they use in this, but that there is separateness, right,
mhm,
or individuality, which is just a one wave breaking different to another wave, right? That
mhm,
it is singing its song in its own
mhm,
unique way, but
mhm.
it is still part of the whole. And I think that that wholeness is also something that, you know, that we all crave as well, that we are all trying to return to, is this like experiencing each other beyond the lines, the shape of all these individual bodies, or seeing ourselves as separate. Uh, you know,
Can I,
being the eyes are lying basically.
yeah. Can I interject a little bit? Because that's exactly how I see it. Like, for instance, the world might encourage us to be the same, right? To sort of um
Conform.
automate a lot of stuff. There's a lot of automation today, but the human personality and expression is unique and it's different. And my understanding, Jan, is that only because we are unique and different, we can experience the togetherness. Because if we are all the same, there's no point of being together because we're all the same, right? There's no stimulation, there's no connection, right? If two things are the
Oh wow.
same, there's no t- idea of together. So the more we can sing our own song in a unique manner, when we come together, we can experience and create a shared connection of togetherness, wholeness. That's why we exist 9 billion people as a unique differentiation, because coming together is the demonstration collectively that we are whole. So that's how I see it.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
So so being different and unique has is not different or opposite from the idea of wholeness. Because of
Yeah.
that, we can demonstrate wholeness together. Um,
Being
that's
the
actually,
same,
uh-huh.
being the same doesn't necessarily doesn't guarantee connection.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
we're not gonna feel connected because it's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing. That's actually the very last module of the Connect to the Sacred, the phase 3 of self-realization. That's how everything flows the loop. Uh,
Hmm.
do you have any final comment?
Is this our last one for the year, or are we doing next week?
Next week we have the
So,
reflection.
23rd.
So this is the last one
Oh,
of the year.
okay.
Yeah,
Well, happy, happy, happy.
I'll be happy for everybody. Um,
Mm.
if anybody resonate with one of the ideas that we presented, I want to invite everybody to the Soul Purpose School group. I'm gonna drop the link below. We talk a lot about the inner work and spiritual realization, the embodiment of it, and how we can apply that into business growth for all soul-led entrepreneurs. We call soulpreneur. We are growing very fast. We had a, very
Big jump.
expanding day yesterday, and the group is only gonna grow. People coming from all over the world, uniqueness, and we are encouraging everybody to tap into their, song, the voice that they have, and to express the unique you unapologetically, because that's where the magic lies, and that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody seems like they want, that, that togetherness, but the togetherness comes with that uniqueness. So click the link below for school, and we'll see everybody in inside